Hello, ALBW, wherever you are. And right at this exact moment, someone decided to call me. So let's forget about that. So I want to welcome you today. It's a really special ALBW Live. I couldn't be more excited to have the fabulous Helena Whitbread on board with us today. And I promise you it's going to be a wonderful interview. And also, I want to make sure that you stick around after the interview for a very important announcement. So please stay with us. Can't wait to tell you what's going on. Now, so for those of you tuning in for the first time who may never have, quote, met Helena Whitbread before, it was her outstanding first book, The Secret Diaries of Miss Anne Lister, that was published in 1988 that broke Anne's code to the world at large. And if it hadn't been Helena who had done that at that time, I'm not certain who would, because the winds of change were definitely not giving her any push forward on that one. And we'll talk more about that later. But so without further ado, let's welcome the marvelous, the fabulous Helena Whitbread.
Thank you, Pat.
Hello, Helena. How are you?
Hello, everybody who might be watching. It's very nice to be able to talk to you this way. So there we go, Pat.
There we go. So Helena, today I want to dig into some other pieces of your story. I mean, there's certainly, we've had a few times before to talk about some of your background, etc. But I know that in particular, people are very interested in what's going on with the biography, as well as a few other things. And so I'd like to just jump right into that, and let's just start talking about the biography. But Helena, as a little bit of a run-up to the questions that I've sent you, I want to start by asking you, when did you first decide to do the biography, and how long have you been working on it in general?
Yes, well, of course, my second book was published in 1992. And I'm lay, shall I say, fallow for a number of years because I realized that a lot of academics had got the book, and I knew there was a lot of work going on, and I didn't feel, I don't think, brave enough to tackle a huge biography. So I think a gap of about 10 years.
Wow.
Because, yes, I thought somebody will have brought one out, but they didn't. And nobody seemed to be doing that. Yes, right. So at 2002, I started thinking about it. And then I made a start, you know. But then, of course, it kept falling by the wayside, you know, for one thing and another.
Right.
And I kept picking it up. And, of course, I met Anne Chomer. We were friends by then. Then I met Sally. And, of course, there was this resurgence of interest. So I picked it up again. And it sort of went on like that. Well, I got the whole, you know, the huge... well, it was 400,000 words by the time I had finished it. Wow. And that took me best part of 15 years, I think, really, because you get going down so many rabbit holes and things like that, you know. Yeah.
You know, it doesn't surprise me that no one else had really picked up on writing the biography because of the work that you had to do originally just to understand what was going on in the book, because you were one of the first people to start decoding the entire milieu of her crypt hand, right?
I realized that, but I was very much not in the circle of academics, if you see what I mean.
Right,
I was a loner, you know. For 5 years, nobody knew I was doing it. It was just my baby, if you like. Yes. And so when the books went out, I was sort of deluged with academics asking me questions and wanting to use parts, and you know, all that went on. And I thought, all these really brilliant people, and I didn't feel quite so brilliant. I thought, oh, yeah, they're so young and keen and eager, and
Yes. Yeah.
yes. What was I in
It's
2002? Yes, I was about, what was I, 70? Wasn't I? Yeah, I'm
yeah.
94
Wow.
now. So, I sort of backed off. But then
Yes.
I realised, I don't think anybody else is doing it, so I picked it up again. Yeah, and
Right.
so
So
went
so
on.
now so now you've managed to get this thing to 400,000 words, and you started to get some pushback on that, right? That people wanted it a little bit more compact, shall we say?
Yeah, yes. I had, my agent put it out to two publishers, but they both said the same thing. It was too hefty, too far too long. 400,000 wasn't a viably publishing. What shall I say?
Right.
They just wouldn't look. They just wouldn't look at it like that. So
Yeah.
they both said, and I was surprised at the saying because it was an academic press. But anyway, they both said that you must cut it down to about 190,000 words, or even as far down as 120,000. 120,000 is taking 67% out of the text. I had to get rid of 67%. I thought, yeah. So there we go.
I can't imagine trying to write about Anne Lister's life in 120,000 words.
I can't. No.
That's barely
No,
getting started. Yeah. So where are you right now with it?
Well, I as I say, I think you've asked me how difficult it's been deciding what to jettison, and what to keep. And I think what I said back was, I obviously had to kill some of my darlings, yeah. And
yes.
Then I read a message on Facebook, and a woman writer was experiencing just the same as I was doing, and she wrote, "I have literally 400,000 words of darlings in a long, rambling book I've been writing for 20 years."
Yes.
She says, "It's a nightmare. I can't let it go. I can't bury it. So I must slash it ruthlessly, or no one is ever going to read it." And that really could have been me, writing that.
And for those of you out in the audience who aren't writers, because I know all the writers will recognize that phrase,
yes,
it has to do with the fact that we writers often get very protective of the words that we put in the page and the way that we've done it. And publishers love to use that phrase. I can't remember what famous author that came from, but there was someone, back in, I think, Virginia Woolf time, but I'm not sure, that referred to it as having to kill their darlings or kill their children, because that's what it felt like to get rid of those pieces.
Yes. I read about that the other. I've forgotten the man's name. But anyway, you asked me how did I make those decisions? Yeah.
Yes.
Well, yeah. When I first conceived the idea of attempting to write a biography, I thought I'll begin with what should be volume 1. Anne's early years, 1791 to 1826, and I felt really, you see, my other two books have been books of extracts. I did put in background context, but this time I thought, if I'm starting on this biography, I could expand on so many elements in her life that weren't possible to be addressed in my earlier books. Yeah.
Yes.
And you see, when you look at I Know My Own Heart, the first one, I'd concentrated on mainly in Halifax in York. So that was almost parochial, but it was very local, and then my second book was very much in Paris. I think I went more to town on the politics in Paris. I was allowed, well, when I say I was allowed more leeway, I hadn't got an agent at that point, and so it was just me writing. But then I met, then I met Caroline Davidson, and she wrote The World of Mary Ellen Best, and she said, I know who published that second book for you. And so she took it to this printer in Otley, and he printed, I think, 2,500 copies, so it was out there. And so that was wonderful. I'd had total control over that second book, because the printer, so it wasn't like a publisher in the strict sense. It wasn't saying, like, oh, you'll have to chop this out. They just put it on a PDF and they just printed it. And it's a great book. It's that one, the one that they produced. New York University Press were very impressed, with the format, and very handsome book.
Wow.
Shame there's only 2,500 copies, but there you go. Anyway,
that must be the one that I found on eBay in 2019 when I was looking for your second book, and they were trying to sell it for $1,900.
Yes, I know, it's ridiculous.
It's crazy, right?
Anyway, with this biography, and I wanted to enlarge upon the wider national and political scenario in Britain, which occurred throughout Anne's life. We've moved away from Yorkshire to a certain extent, and then Paris widened horizons.
Right.
Then when she came back, it was very much. She came back about 1824, didn't she? 1826. Uncle James died. So we're moving towards things like the Reform Act and, Catholic emancipation. So there was all sorts of things going on there. And, of course, Anne's life spanned virtually the whole of the Romantic era, about 1798 to 1830.
Right.
And, also, as you surmise, there's a great deal of information about work on Shibden property, most of which had to be cut. So all the political, a lot of the social, a lot of the business at Shibden, it had to be all cut out.
Wow.
So
what a shame.
I know.
So, but you've saved those bits, right? The parts that
I've
you
made a file of all the edited extracts. Yes, and Caroline said, well, I've got Caroline as an agent now, Caroline Davidson, right? And she said, keep them, because you never know, and sort of make something of them.
Yes.
So I don't really know what, but that was something somebody else might have to look into. I mean, one wonders how long one can go on when one is in the mid-90s.
Helena, I hope forever. Let me put it that way. I can't imagine the world without you. But I'm also sort of surprised, and maybe it's because this isn't general knowledge to some of the publishers at this point, with Oxford University Press deciding to publish the whole of Anne's journals and get those journals on the shelves of research universities. It feels like a biography with the heft that you currently had would actually be something that people would want. So I'm a little surprised.
Yeah.
So hold on to those.
The point is that will they still, a putative writer who says, right, okay, I'll take over from where Helena stopped and I'll do the rest of it. Would they allow her or him, to be a her, I'm sure, to put in all the things they've asked me to take out only further on, if they can't publish what I've done now. Are they going to let somebody else do 400,000 words after me on the next volume? Or are we going to have a series of truncated volumes? Right. Do you see what I mean?
Yes, I know exactly what you mean. Yes.
Yeah. So I think that'd have to be up to somebody else now. Yeah, they'd have to take over, I think. But there we go.
Yeah, and I guess one of the hardest things, this is just a this is a process question, but I have to imagine the hardest thing about doing the editing is making sure that the footnotes all go back in the right place.
The footnotes. Yeah. I have a friend in Cambridge, Caroline Gonda, and she told me a tale. She said she met a friend of hers, an academic friend she hadn't seen for years, and she'd been engaged on a huge project, you know.
Yeah.
And Caroline said to her, your hair's gone white. And she said it was the footnotes.
Exactly.
And I think that's age, but never.
Well, you
Okay,
know,
so
yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
younger person, perhaps. Yeah.
Well,
and the publishers to give people, you know, let them do the book they want to. I mean, unless it's rubbish, but I don't think anything about analysts is rubbish.
There are few people out there who know Ann Lister as well as you do. And, you know, certainly Jill, from her perspective of Ann's later years, do want to give her a little credit there. But it's, and we are going to be talking to Jill sometime in the next month, by the way.
Okay.
We'll talk about that later. But in any case, I can't imagine anybody else who knows her as well as you do, with the possible exception of Ann Choma.
Choma, yes. But yes, of course, she's gone so deeply into into this Jill Liddington's era, you know. But, certainly, she met me. We met together in 1992 because she found my books, and she came to Shibden and she wanted to meet me, and we got on beautifully. And that was in 1992. And now she was working at the time, but not all the time. Well, we went all over. She had a car. I couldn't drive. We had some madcap adventures going, especially in Paris.
I can only imagine. Yeah.
We went up to see, you know, Langton Hall. We went up to see where Anne was, where her parents lived, you know, up in East Yorkshire. We went at Scarborough to look at the beaches and things. Man, I've been to Scarborough years and years, you know, each year. And just anywhere, we went around looking at graveyards, you know, things like that. We went to Lawton.
Helena, what was it like for you when you walked into places like Langton or to, you know, Lawton Hall, or the places where you knew that Anne had been with Mariana, with Tib, etc.? Did you have did you feel a connection when you were in those spaces at all with those people?
I think that sort of sensation happened during the first 5 years, but it was mostly Halifax. I couldn't believe I was walking in the same streets as she walked.
Wow.
You know, going to the same places that she went in. It was not, you know, that romance with my own hometown was wonderful. And although it was interesting to do the other things, it never had quite that impact on me as Halifax itself, you know.
That's fascinating. Yes.
I mean, as I say, mentally, physically, I was in modern Halifax, but mentally, I was in Halifax 200 years ago. And you see, when I was a child, a lot of those, like Riley's Yard, would have been there, you know, where I was brought up. When Anne was, she used to walk up wool shops, you know, where I was born, you know.
Wow.
And and I think I've said before that the last Lister,
John Lister, yes,
he was still alive when I was born, you know. So and his solicitor lived 2 doors on from me when I was born in the square, So it's like a continuity. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yes. Wow. Wow.
So there we go.
It's amazing. So what would you like to see for as far as Ann Lister's really amazing story, where else might it go in your eyes going forward?
Well, I think there are various ways that it can go. I mean, there are already. I mean, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 films already made, and the Julia Ford in A Marriage, and then there was the one in 2010. You know, the romance between Mariana and Lister, and of
Yes,
course, then there was some explosive film. I mean, will anybody ever match that? Quite a challenge. But I think I'd like to see more scholarly approaches as well in the many aspects of Anne's life which haven't yet been covered in sufficient detail. Yeah, so far the media, especially in the area of filmmaking, have understandably taken a specific relationship story. You see, you know, like Anne Walker with Sally, Mariana with the 2010 film. So there's so much more to be explored, you know.
Oh my gosh!
But one question is, like, you know, would the more arcane complexities of Anne's life be of sufficient interest? You know, sat in a lecture room in Paris listening to Cuvier's intricate explanations of was it paleontology and things like that. So, but, you know, and
it's amazing
what we're seeing with all the papers that are coming out and all the talks and all the wonderful stuff that's going on with the Animal Society and that. All these specialists are doing their own papers, which is wonderful. Yes, but
I'd like to give a little shout out to 2 of those. You just mentioned the Ann Lister Society, which I'm involved in, and then also Packed with Potential. They've done all sorts of interesting work that, you know, it started out sort of being connected because of Gentleman Jack, but it very quickly at PWP started to dive down into the real Ann Lister, and there are some wonderful pieces on their site as well. So it's but to your point, that the idea of academia becoming more involved with Anne, I think more of that'll happen once the all of her journals have been published by OUP. So when people have access to that, right? So next question. As the first to achieve worldwide publication of Anne's story, why do you think it resonated with so many people?
I think for many lesbians throughout the world, around the globe, who came across Anne Lister via Sally's film, I think the fact it would astonish them that 200 years ago, the life of a lesbian had been committed to paper in authentic detail. There was no made up, you know, there was no fantasy. It wasn't, you know, some erotic sort of, I don't know, fiction. Certainly wasn't fiction, was it? And this was a revolution to present day lesbians, really, as it has also been to many others, you know. But importantly, for the lesbian communities, it's a validation of the rights of lesbians, to take their place in the world, as Anne did, with courage and confidence. So I think, this is such a role model, isn't it?
She is, and you know, I know that I spread the word as often as I can. In fact, don't laugh. 3 days ago, before Brenda went into surgery, we were sitting in the pre-op room where they were getting her ready, and the nurse that was dealing with her made a point of letting us know that she and her partner, meaning her wife, and that's how we talk to each other when, you know, many of us lesbians, when we're out in the real world, we kind of let on. And so the first thing I asked her was, "Have you seen Gentleman Jack?" And of course she hadn't, so there's so many, yeah, just
Mhm.
so, and I know there's lots of people out here that are spreading that same word.
Well, my daughter went in the supermarket once, not Rachel, her older sister, and she was wearing an onyx ring that I'd bought her because she wanted one, Anne Lister-wise.
Right,
Yeah, what do you want for birthday? Oh, buy me an onyx ring like Anne Lister. Anyway, she was packing her goods at the supermarket, and this young woman said, "Is that an onyx ring?" And she said, "Yes." And she said, "Did you know Anne Lister? What did you know about a woman called Anne Lister who wore an onyx ring?" she couldn't believe her ears when she said, "Well, it's my mother that wrote the book." Yeah.
Did she ask for an autograph? Oh, Helena. So let me get on to the next. Here's the thing, Helena. You and I could sit here for the rest of the afternoon, but let me move along here. I love talking to you. You've lived in Halifax your entire life, and you've had a ringside seat to see what the impact of your books, Gentleman Jack, Jill's work, all of it has had on that town. What, if any, what kind of impact do you think it has had on Halifax?
I think it's had a huge effect. Well, yes, it's sort of the centre of Halifax has become a real draw and attraction for filmmakers, for artists. We're getting some really top names and all that sort of thing. So the impact on the town, well, it was, of course, due to Gentleman Jack. But prior to that, despite mine and Jill Liddington's publications, Anne's story was very much below the radar. Nobody had heard. I mean, a journalist came and said, "Shall we walk around Shibden Park and ask people if they know Anne Lister?" And nobody knew. "Oh no, it was Anne Lister," and that sort of thing. So the ordinary townspeople didn't know until Gentleman Jack, of course. Yeah. So following the release, So after the film, of course, there's been sort of a tsunami of attention in the town. Yes,
I have
become
go ahead.
Popular centre of culture. So, all aspects of the media, they've showered attention on the once unremarkable little town of Halifax that was tucked away in the Pennine Hills. We were such a I don't know, anonymous little place. And now it's apparently, So, I mean, the Hall, for instance, that's the location for major entertainment. Names come to perform. And I had a visit from the mayor a few weeks ago. She came with her regalia. I've always wanted to meet Helena Whitbread.
Oh, my God.
House. Oh, dear.
Oh, my.
Yes, she was lovely. Yes, but she said, since, well, I think as well, it was with you starting ALBW as well. She said, so much money, has come into the town. She says, last year, from everything, although it didn't all go to the council, but it brought in revenue of £850,000 just from Anne Lister. Yeah. So, I mean, when you think of it, the shops, the inns, the hotels, restaurants, in fact, almost every area of trade really has benefited. Yes. So there we go. So,
one of the first. Go ahead.
No. I mean, during ALBW, I think there's a lot of money spent there. Don't you?
Well, I have to say that it's the reception that the town has given us as ALBW has just been astounding. I mean, we have been welcomed with open arms in that place, and it's been such a wonderful. I always describe it as a little bit like going to Brigadoon. Like Halifax just kind of appears in this fog, right, in this special little place. And which is why I'm always so keen on telling people that it's all great to be in ALBW chat and all the rest of it, or to watch the lives, but to be in Halifax and to be interacting in that place, in this community with the people of Halifax is really just a very, very special thing, and something to really experience at least once in your life, especially for a lesbian.
Yeah. How the people, Americans particularly, just look on it as like a Shangri-La, don't they? In a way.
Yes, we do. We do indeed, especially right now. So, but we don't want to get into that at this second. So let me move on to this next one. Okay, people are like throwing hundreds of questions on the side here, which you can't see right now, but I need to make sure I give them time. So what would you like to see happen in the future for Ann Lister and her journals? I asked you that in question 9 when I first talked to you.
Well, of course, and the Ann Lister journals are already sort of going higher and higher. Really, they've achieved their deserved place on the UNESCO Memory of the World Register. I mean, that's quite an achievement. Other diaries like Samuel Pepys, and people like that has a ranking as highly as those historical journals, and they're already being integrated into educational curricula in Britain's schools, which is really good.
Which is amazing. Yeah.
So, and then I think in these various ways, the legacy of Ann Lister's courage will continue to inspire and encourage the rights of lesbians to participate fully and freely in all aspects of society, wherever they are.
Bless you.
No more hiding around, no more trying to, think, I can't answer any questions on my partner because it's a she, and things like that.
Yeah. Oh, God bless you, Helena, because you've just your outstanding devotion to our community is just, we are so fortunate to have you. Now, you've had a couple of unexpected developments because of your work. And for example, first, your honorary doctorate. How did you feel about that?
That came from Sheffield University. And I must say, I was absolutely over the moon, really, about the recognition. And I was very thrilled because it was not only a validation of my work, but a validation of Ann Lister, But I felt very apprehensive about the coming ceremony, oh gosh, the huge crowd and the rows and rows of young students. I had to stand up and give a speech. And I think I've told you about the 3 key words that I used. And I said to all the young graduates, there were about 6 rows of them, and all the parents at the back and everything. And I said, you young people, you've got it all before you, I said, and especially you people who are going to be journalists, historians, working for the news and things. I says, my watchword throughout writing the Ann Lister, I have 3 watchwords: truth, transparency, and tenacity.
God bless you.
Yeah, the truth lies in the fact that I cracked the code and put it out into the public. Transparency was the books, of course, and tenacity was my 40 years with the Ann Lister stuff.
And here you are still doing it. I mean, my God, Helena, what do you think? Now, most of you have heard the story of Helena as the barmaid and everything that happened there. And there's more coming on Helena's background later in our announcement. But what do you think that young barmaid would have thought if she knew what lay ahead?
When I was pulling pints in the local pub, I think, as that young barmaid had no formal education since she left school at the age of 13, and I think she would have thought that she had to stop visualizing such an unreachable goal as a doctorate. There you go.
And then on top of that, you wound up with an MBE. How did that go?
That was a bit of a dilemma, really, for me. Yes, but I was, so many people were pressurizing me. You know, we think you need an honor, we think this, you don't. A lot of it came from American people, of course, and it is an honor, but there was a lot of vacillation on my part. That was not accepted. But they only gave a week. The letter came. You have been awarded an MBE. You have, you know, are you willing to accept this or no? And you have to have your reply back within a week. So that was a week of sleepless nights for me, of course. But in the end, the deciding argument, and because you do a pros and cons, don't you? Really, about anything big. Yeah. But the deciding argument was, I felt that I'd been given this honour, but it really was honouring the advancement of lesbian history as well, you know, and therefore I accepted it on behalf of the establishment's recognition of the importance of preserving such a valuable addition to the literature of diversity, really. Yes. So,
boy, I got to tell you, for those of you in the audience right now, if you aren't getting chills in your spine, you're dead. Because what you're saying, Helena, is so important, and cannot thank you enough for that. And especially right now, when diversity, equity, etc., is being attacked by so many people, I'm wondering, in your long lifetime, what might you tell our audience about how to deal with what's happening right now?
Right now, yes. Well, it's a very troubled world that we're living in at the moment. I mean, as a child of the 30s, I was born in 1931, so that they call the 30s that dark, dishonest decade. You know, the rise of fascism, you know, and that sort of thing. And so I lived through the Depression era and the rise of fascism, and then, of course, World War II on a massive scale. Many other scary scenarios as well appeared, as even after the war had finished, there were still awful things happening and beginning, such as the Cold War period, for instance, when it's an imminent threat of, you know, sort of nuclear war or atomic war, as we used to call it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And the rise of terrorist activities and climate change. All those were beginning towards the end of the 20th century.
Right.
And as we got into the 21st, you know, the state of the world events at present are absolutely terrifying, really. So, in fact, though, I think that, you know, as individuals, you know, on our own, but we don't have any control over these huge developments. And I mean, America, particularly now, must be in. Anyway, that I do feel there are certain human qualities which can be summoned up by the individual, in times of stress. Courage and there's hope and, you know, resilience, which is a big thing, which we all learned during the war and the Depression and everything. We are a resilient people, you know, all of us. I mean, although it's hard to say that's in underdeveloped countries where they don't have the aid and things like that, but and most people are resilient, I think.
Yes.
So, as one writer put it, if you can't do great things in a great way, you can do small things in a small way, you know? Life can be purposeful. And Anne Lister was definitely into that sort of mind thought, should I say, yes? And she wrote, "Isn't life wonderful? Every day packed with potential." So, you know, she was So I would say to people, and the young coming up, the thing is to find your purpose in life rather than sitting at home in fear and wondering what might happen. Yeah, just go out there. Even if it's like helping with the food bank or, various ways that people can do things in small ways. We can't all be heroes and heroines, but we can do things if we think of those things. Yeah. Hope, optimism, yeah, and resilience.
And resilience, hope, opportunity, and resilience. Important words from one of the most important people alive in our world today. And I don't say that jokingly. Helena, I want to give people a little bit of time here to ask some of their questions. And then we're going to make an announcement that also has to do with Helena at the end of that. So I have the questions right here on my phone. Cheryl has been sending them to me.
Oh, right.
So we're going to start. Janneke van der Eden. Hello, Janneke.
Oh,
Dear
yeah.
Helena,
Oh, hi.
how close are you to finishing the word culling and having it published? She hopes it's going to happen soon. Doriana Sorolla also has, we'll get to that. So go ahead. So back to Janneke, what you might say about how close might you be to having it published?
Well, I've done all the word culling, or I should say, I enlisted the help of a proofreader and Ruth and Gregory, yes, and she did a wonderful job of cutting down the words. She just knew exactly what had to come out, what had to be left in. As for having it published, as I say, that's in the air yet, so we've just got to wait now and see what happens. As I said, the document, the manuscript is published for that first volume. So
right.
I'm hoping against hope. As I say, it's turned down twice. But
Helena, Doriana Sorolla, actually, she has a question and a comment that I actually think is right in the right direction. She says, I wish Helena would self-publish the whole biography that she's written rather than cut 2/3 of it at the behest of publishers. Have you considered that option? And Doriana, she's already answered she is holding the things that she's cut, just to answer that part of your question. But have you thought about self-publishing, Helena?
I'm reluctant to do that. I would rather have a bona fide publisher. Yes. And I really would. Yeah, I want other experts to take it over, and I wouldn't want to be responsible. Yeah.
I completely understand that answer as a writer myself and as somebody who's been struggling along with their novel for the last, millennium. I'll tell you about it sometime. It's not, I don't want to, I want it published by a real publisher because it says something about the content and the work, etc. And it's important because it has to do with subjects that we're talking about right now. But that's not what we're talking to you about your stuff. Having somebody actually publish it is a very important thing to a writer, rather than self-publishing in many ways.
I sent a little section of what I'd had to cull. Did you manage to get around to reading it about Jeremy at the American War of Independence?
I haven't seen it.
Email.
Oh, golly. I will go look for that I will go look for that right after this.
I mean, with Brenda being
she's good though, and she sends her love. So she's all
that's fond of Brenda.
She's very fond of you, as are we all. Henriette Stensdell wants to know, is Helena looking forward to Jennifer Van Gessel's film when that comes out?
I'm looking forward to it, yes. I am indeed. Yes. That is certainly a twist, isn't it? And, and Lister's love of the Gothic It sort of links into that part of her nature.
Yeah.
I mean, when she was in Paris, I think she bought the first Gothic novel ever published, which was called The Monk. And it was all about a lot of not incest, but sexual evilness going on in a convent, And,
Oh, wow.
Yes, I know. It was by a man called Lewis, I think. Now, Anne wouldn't normally buy novels or anything like that. She wasn't a novel reader. She said, what are they, after all, but a tale that is told? She liked facts and science and, and so I was surprised when I read that. Oh, she's bought The Monk, Yeah.
Right?
So, yes, I am eager to see what Jen makes of this. It's very interesting.
Me too.
I mean, I met Jen, she's been to mine, yes, and yes, I get on with her nicely. Yeah.
So, it's the work that she's put into that is certainly going to come up with something.
Yeah.
Allison Galderozzi wants to know if you were aware of the billboard that was in Times Square in New York City to save Gentleman Jack.
Indeed, I was. Yes. Wow.
Wasn't that fun?
I've never been to New York. The thought terrifies me. But the billboard up there. Wow.
Yeah.
Did it stay up?
No, it was. We rented it for. We just rented it for the one period of time on one day.
Right. Yeah.
But it was videotaped and then sent around the world, so everybody, people have seen it. It's quite an operation. Ivana Nika, is there something left you wish to find out about Anne Lister that you haven't so far, that isn't known yet?
Is there anything left you wish to find out?
Yeah, she wants to know if there's anything else that you wish to find out about Anne Lister that you may not have discovered at this point.
To be quite honest, she was so particular, so meticulous. And anybody who's read through the whole of the journals, what else would there be to say?
Exactly. What's left?
And the accounts and everything you ever want to know about Anne Lister is down in the archives. I mean, when I was going through it in those 5 years, obviously a lot of it is very heavy stuff about building and things like that. But I went through the whole lot. Yeah, mostly concentration on the decoding, obviously. So I decoded right to the end, Yeah. So, no, I don't think she didn't leave anything out, did she?
No, she didn't. The only thing I might throw in there, Helena, is where is she buried in the Minster? Because, as you might know, that's the subject. Okay, so one more question. And that is, this is very sweet. This is also from Ivana. If you are able, can you please come to Anne Lister's flower laying on the 3rd of April at her statue in Peace Hall so that we can all greet you and thank you for everything once again?
Oh, that's lovely. Thank you, Ivana. I'll see how health is. I haven't been out for about 18 months, because I'm just not all that well. It's all right having lights and makeup. But there are the other days. Yes, but certainly, if it's at all possible,
Yeah, I certainly hope so. And I certainly hope that I'll see you when I'm there. I want to stop by your flat and have some tea with you or something. So, Helena, I'm going to let you go backstage now. And we're going to move into making the announcement that we wanted to. But before I do, there aren't enough words in the world or enough ways to say them from my heart to yours for everything that you have done for us, including being here today. So thank you.
Oh, well, it's been lovely to see you again. And Jen and Cheryl. Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Yes.
And we'll see you in a little bit. So.
Okay.
Hello again to ALBW, wherever you are. Isn't that just I love talking to Helena. In fact, by the way, this is what the announcement is. I love talking to Helena so much that about 2.5 years ago, I sat down with Helena and recorded via the work of Sarah Hardy, who is the filmographer that did the Gentleman Jack Changed My Life video for the BBC. Sarah and I sat down one afternoon in Helena's flat with her, and we spent 2 full hours talking about what I call Helena's moral history, not her oral history. I wanted to know what it was that changed the life of this young Irish woman living in England, leaving school at the age of 13, that inspired her to the point that she went on to publish her first book about Anne Lister, and exactly at a time in history when her government was clearly saying, you can't do that. And if you do, you no longer have a job. Helena was a school teacher. Section 28 forbade the mention of homosexuality in the public schools. And many of you know the story of that, the story of the long fuse. But what you may not know is exactly everything else that went into making Helena who Helena is. And so Helena and I went through that in our 2-hour talk. And we are, for the very first time, ALBW is going to be putting on an online event. And that online event is Helena Whitbread, The Long Fuse, The Moral History of a True Hero. And I'm telling you, if you enjoyed this interview today, I will tell you that there is so much more behind her story and is so important for all of us to know, especially right now at this time in our history. Now, for the first time ever, we're going to be charging for that. It's going to be set up as an Eventbrite ticket. It's a measly £10. You get the link to the video. You can watch it as many times as you want to, or stop and start it however you want to. But every single penny of that is going to Helena Whitbread. We are taking care of any fees from Eventbrite, etc., all of that. So this is a way that you can show your support for Helena and her work on the biography, because while she's been working on the biography, she hasn't been working on anything else that might be have put into a book and sold and have royalties coming her way. So I'm really excited about this opportunity, and I hope you are too. So that link is going to go live at 1 o'clock, which is 5 minutes from now. And you will have the opportunity. There it is. It's helena.eventbrite.com. And as I said, £10, $12 American, all yours. Please watch it. Please enjoy it. Please learn from it. And please remember, the world can be changed. You are never a victim. Tenacity, courage, resilience is what we all need right now. And let's just try to follow in Helena's footsteps. So I thank you all for coming today. I thank you in advance for you supporting Helena through the Eventbrite tickets. And guess what? We're almost there. I will see you in Halifax.